Ganier. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Eating at a Meeting. It is a special episode on Tuesdays because we're celebrating HERstory Month, and I am so excited to bring to you my guest today from Nashville, Tennessee, Sylvia Ganier. I just said it, Ganier.
You did it.
Okay,
Yay.
perfect.
Ganier.
Woohoo. She is a dairy farmer's daughter from North Carolina who moved to Nashville after graduating from App State. She was a chef owner, established CIBO, which is a pioneer restaurant in the upscale fast casual music or movement in Music City. I'll slow down my talking here. She is currently the chief farm operator, CFO, of Green Door Gourmet, which is just outside of Nashville. And it is an agritourism farm, which I'm very excited to learn more about. She is a sought after speaker on food farms and the intersections of the two. And she and her husband, Al, are founders and co-owner operators of Green Door Gourmet and have recently been honored with the lifetime humanitarians by the TJ Martell Foundation. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's definitely an honor.
I'm sure you've worked very hard at that. And then I also want to point out that she and I are both members of La Dame de Escoffier, as well as last week's guest, Lauren. So I'm very excited about chatting with another Dame as well. So, Sylvia, you grew up on a farm, and then you moved to Nashville actually to be a singer, and then you became a chef and a restaurateur. When did farming re-enter the picture, and why did you decide it was time to grow your own food?
I'm not sure that it ever really left the picture. I
Okay.
just didn't have a plot of land. But even when I was, working in the singing side of things, the place that I lived had a big garden out back. And so my landlady, I lived upstairs in a walk up. Her husband was on the road a lot, so she and I would garden together. So I still had a little bit of that going on in my blood.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's hard to take the girl off the farm and the farm out of the girl.
Yeah. And are you doing any dairy farming now, or is it strictly vegetables?
No, when my husband and I got married, we had two rules: for better, or for worse, but not for lunch. And then the second one, nothing that gets out.
Okay.
If a zucchini crosses the fence, I'm okay with that. If a cow crosses the road, we have a lot more problems than all the traffic in Nashville. So no
Right.
animals.
Okay. All right. Well, and you started, I love the story that you asked your husband for 9 acres to grow your own food. Is that right?
Yes, when we purchased the farm out of the family estate,
Okay.
I really wanted to begin growing things. I had just retired from the restaurant industry. And I thought, oh, I've got time. Could you fence me a little garden? Just a little garden. So 9 acres to him was a small garden because he was used to 3,000 acres down in Humphreys County, right?
Uh-huh.
So my little 9 acres was my small garden that he fenced for me.
Uh-huh.
And as a girl that likes a challenge, if he was going to fence it, I was going to grow it.
And what did you grow on those 9 acres at the first pass?
Oh, I tried a bit of everything to see what would take in this
Mm-hmm.
particular soil, because every garden, even if you're in the same city, you have microclimates and you
Okay.
don't know what's going to work and not work. But we had amazing sunflowers. I learned that this particular area does great for cucumbers, green beans, whole beans. We did lettuce, we did squash, we tried corn, not near enough acreage to do the corn and everything else
Uh-huh.
there, but I got enough ears to fight the raccoons for, so that was good. And different flowers and things like that in addition to sunflowers. So it was pretty cool. And tomatoes, cherry, regular tomatoes. Um, I
S-
was not really thinking about winter things at that point. So it was all
Gotcha.
spring through fall crops.
Okay. And just because you mentioned the flowers, so you sell flowers not you as well as vegetables.
Yes, we do cut flowers and we also do some edible flowers and herbs.
I was chatting with one of the a woman 2 weeks ago, we were talking about eating dandelions. You know,
Yes.
yeah. Do you grow those too?
So we have dandelions all over the property. They mean a couple of different things, and if you get me down a rabbit hole on certain topics, you're gonna have to pull me back a little bit. But
Okay.
the reason why dandelions are really interesting is everybody works so hard to get them out of your yard.
Hmm.
And if you spray your yard and you use all the stuff, you should not eat the dandelions in your yard because they're uptaking things from those pesticides. But if you find a place that doesn't spray or use any chemicals, you see the dandelions. Well, we're out picking them, and you can make wonderful, like almost a mead out of the dandelion flowers. And then the
Oh,
greens, you
wow.
pay $1 billion for at Whole Foods, and everybody else is trying to get them out of their yard. But instead, now you go buy them at a Whole Foods or something like that. So for dandelions, for us, we treat them as the redheaded stepchildren on the farm, that we
Okay.
love them and we're going to put up with them. And where they grow, they get to grow, but they
Okay.
don't get to encroach into our regular crops uh, because they don't do well in where we have most of our crops. Dandelions like very compacted soil. They're a sign of weak soil. And
Oh.
so where we have a lot of um, river rock and that sort of thing, they do well there,
Hmm.
but they don't do well in beautiful loamy soil.
Oh, interesting. Okay. They want the down and the dirty instead of the fresh and the clean.
Yeah, they're the tough. We will survive anything.
Yeah,
They are
they
the
do.
DOMs. They're the DOMs. We survive anything. Dandelions and thistles and all of that are the DOMs, the strong women. All the other plants like, we want it fluffy. Let's be happy.
Interesting. So yeah, and I know you can buy them and eat them, but I've just never tried them myself. So it's something you and listen, I'm going to have to try that. So that's very cool. Okay, so your 9 acres is now 152-acre organic production, right?
Correct.
How
Yes.
and then that's on a 350-acre property. You know what? How long did it take you to grow that from the 9 to the 152 that you're growing on? And what did that growth teach you that you couldn't have learned any other way?
Well, we have been at this for 17, almost 18 years, 18 in
Okay.
May. And I learned that we started real small, grew real big, real fast. And
Okay.
now we have said, okay, we had to make this adjustment back around 2016 of farming not only in an organic manner, but
Mhm.
also in a regenerative manner.
Okay.
And what that has allowed us to do is to put certain fields in certain parts of rotation. And those rotational movements, if you will,
Mhm.
help us rebuild the soil quality to be able to grow various things well in those areas. So some are in a resting period,
Okay.
some are in a grass period, rebuilding nitrogen. Some are in rebuilding mineral nutrients. And so where we farm moves place to place depending on where we're
Interesting.
at in the lifespan of the nutrient value of the farm. And I told you I'd get really geeky and really
No,
weird,
I love
but
that.
because I want to grow food that is not only delicious and beautiful, but healthful. And that's different than growing healthy food. I want food to be healthful, meaning the plant has every opportunity to uptake real micronutrients, not just macronutrients.
Mhm.
And they can't do that unless we're rebuilding soil and water quality at the same time.
So, okay, so regenerative is, a hot button right now. When did you all start that process?
We've always kind of farmed in that same methodology,
Uh-huh.
but we kicked it into another level about 2016, 17 when we decided,
Okay.
hey, we're not going to try to grow 28 million rows of kale. We're going to grow 8 rows of kale and then put this one field that had the 20 extra rows into a regenerative pattern here on the farm.
And is that helped with yield or how has that helped you grow more vegetables or gather new business?
I think it has helped us because we don't have to be all things to all people.
Okay.
Volume is not necessarily how you um, are a more sustainable business. It's allowed us to have a higher quality product,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore it's more highly in demand. So I can command a little bit more, 20 cents on the dollar or something like that for a high dollar product
Mm-hmm.
versus just trying to grow as much as I can and throw it out there. And that also contributes into something else I'm really passionate about, which is food waste. So if
Mm-hmm.
I'm growing a higher quality product, I have less to leave in the field, less to throw away, less that I'm going to be able to sell. So that helps me tremendously getting more literally from the field to the table and have higher margins in that regard too.
Now that's, I read something too that you were part of I want to make sure I get it right. The Livable Nashville program?
Yes,
Is-
that is part of the Urban Green Lab
Okay.
group, and they are all about sustainability and reducing food waste and making Nashville a little bit more of a uh, in tune with where things go city.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the food waste that you're reclaiming or keep not reducing, right? I mean, so are you then composting it and putting it on those fields as well, or how are you managing that?
So depending on what the product is, if the product is truly unusable,
Mm-hmm.
unsalable, or not able to be value added in any way, it immediately goes right into our compost piles.
Okay.
And we make our own compost here. And that's very exciting to be able to put those nutrients right back into the field. And that works into the biodynamic principles that, is another form of farming. And we're not a biodynamic farm per se, but we like to follow that because regenerative and biodynamic really kind of go hand in hand in certain
Uh-huh.
regards. But if it has a value use add, say we have squash that is just a little ugly or slightly blemished, or we have some leaves that have a little bit of sunscald, kale, or something like that, but most of the leaf is usable, we'll take that and we'll turn it into grab and go food in our manufacturing kitchen that we have, and I get value added from that. So
Mm-hmm. And that turns into products like that's on the behind you on the shelves in a way.
um, either shelf stable or
Mm-hmm.
we do a lot of fresh grab and go refrigerated product. And that's one of our top sellers here in the store. They all come for our vegetable soup. Well, the vegetables are made from the things that nobody else wanted to buy in the store because they didn't look pretty.
The ugly fruits and vegetables. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
As,
awesome.
as I say, not every vegetable can be a supermodel.
That's so true. Yeah.
And so we put them to use. And I think
Mhm.
the best thing that I have run across in recent years, we have some chefs in Nashville that understand that principle.
Mhm.
And they're like, hey, sell me your seconds. I'm just going to
Mhm.
chop them up and turn them into something anyway. Sell me your
Right.
seconds. And
Mhm.
that helps them bring money to their bottom line. And it helps
Mhm.
us get product because, I'm kind of the one woman show and I can only chop so many vegetables and do this amount of harvest and do this amount of being the farm market and everything else. So I can only make 300 quarts of soup in a week. I can't
Right.
make 5 million. So I need these chefs to help me out to keep things out of the compost pile, even though when we make compost it's great, but I don't have that much space to make compost piles.
So was it, I mean, I'm curious on how many of those chefs are doing that because I love that. I mean, because again, I'm like, as an event planner, you're going to give me, I'm going to say ratatouille, which would not be a fun dish to have at an event, in my opinion. But ratatouille, I'm like, nobody's going to see that was an ugly, squash or eggplant or whatever. Why wouldn't the chefs want to buy those in the first place? Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
I mean, you just answered your own question.
right.
Somebody that's smart would say, okay, this is what I can do. Where you run into problem is staffing in restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
They don't always have staff that can stand there and cut or peel or take something out. It's much faster to have the perfect vegetable sized exactly. You know,
Okay.
chefs will say, I want, a 4x6 or a 4x5 tomato. They know the exact yield out of that, how much they're going to get corporate wise. They have to calculate all that. It's just easier for them to do that. So your more
Interesting.
creative chefs are going to be the ones that say, send me your seconds. I'm going to turn it into a menu item that I'm going to run for 1 to 2 months versus a corporate or a banquet chef that keeps the same menus the whole time. That's where the yield and being able to help with sustainability kind of comes into play.
That's so interesting, and it makes me wanna, like, go chat with my chefs. I'm like, "All right, I wanna for my menu that I'm doing here in Nashville, I wanna go meet Sylvia. I wanna go with you to the Sylvia's farm and pick out what we're gonna serve on our menu in May," right? Instead of what you've got on your printed menu that you made last year.
And,
Yeah.
the seasons change.
Mhm.
May last year would have been rainy and awful, and you might have planned for strawberries. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, there are no strawberries in the whole Nashville area because they all got ruined in rain.
Wow.
So you have to have that. And I think it's incredibly important if you are trying to create a local and sustainable menu for event planning to give yourself grace. And by that, I mean, just say it's going to be the chef's local specialty of the
Mhm.
moment.
Right.
De jour means something,
Uh-huh.
not just in soup. So it's the vegetable du jour or something like that. And that allows both the chef
Mhm.
and the farmer that are trying to work together to make this sustainable menu a little bit of grace to create something beautiful versus trying to put something literally pigeonholed in a box that they may or may not be able to have happen. So
Right.
the right wording and a little bit of grace can go a long way.
I love that. I would so love to be able to do that, as an event planner, working with some of my chefs, some of those chefs are so hard to work with at convention centers and hotels. They're because 'cause they're pigeonholed into that box because of, like, the yield that you said. Um, the I had this question in my head. Being a chef, you came to Nashville, you own your own restaurant, and now you're the farmer. Has your perspective changed a little bit from being that chef and now being that farmer? Switching those roles, did you still want to work with the farmers directly when you were that chef? Um,
In Nashville, there were not that many opportunities. There weren't very many people doing the local farm to table sort of
mhm,
movement. There was Farmer Dave, and he already had, all the big cats locked in, and he
mhm,
was at maximum production. He couldn't take any more people. Farmers can only grow so much food, so it's wonderful to have people clamoring at your door,
right,
but you know, we have to take care of the plant, the soil, everything else. And then when I'm done, I'm done. This is all I have. I have chefs already calling and begging for strawberries
oh,
because they know
wow,
we have the best tasting strawberries anywhere around. And we use no chemicals on them at all, which is amazing. So you can just pop them right in your mouth, right in the field
wow,
and eat them. They're great. So people are already, it's, middle of March.
and
They're not
people
even
want
baby
them.
strawberries on the vine yet. And they're I want to buy them now. Give them to me now. So we're like, hang on. We'll
Yeah,
we'll put your name on the list. We take care of the folks that have gotten them for years.
mhm,
The old saying, dance with the ones that brought you. That's very important
mhm,
to remember.
yep.
And so we take care of those folks first, and then anything extra then goes out into the marketplace for people to snap up as quick as they can.
And do you do farmers markets, or do you have everybody just come to the farm?
That's why we built this on-farm market.
Okay.
Um, Farmers markets are amazing. They're great. They serve a wonderful purpose. And I'm glad that we have amazing ones here in town. The markets that are run by Delvin Farms and gosh, so many of the markets around and about they do an amazing job. I'm just the kind of one woman show,
Mhm.
and we have very small staff. And with having such a small staff, it made more sense for us to build our farm market and
Yeah.
get people to come here versus me going out, putting up a tent, setting up the tables, having the produce sit out in heat, cold, humidity, whatever, because once those vegetables leave the farm, they can't come back to the farm and be salable. They've been out too long. They've been handled by too many people. They're done. They get donated, and which is a nice thing to be able to do, but it didn't really help my bottom line.
Right.
So my goal was, how do I create something that those same people that are at those farmers markets, the guy that's selling the cheese, the person that's selling the honey, the person that's baking a pie, how do they have a secondary market that they can bring their product in a retail type of environment, but also brings the aggregate part of agriculture together in one common place that is
Mm-hmm.
more than just for 4 hours on a Saturday morning. So that's what we tried to build here with our on-farm market.
And how many people come visit you on a daily basis to buy?
Let's do it weekly because different days
Okay.
of the week are different
Mm-hmm.
people. So we probably have 500
Wow.
to 1,000 customers come through the market on a weekly basis.
That's amazing.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of different personalities, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people looking for different things. You'll talk to one person and all they care about is everything that's completely certified organic, and another
Mm-hmm.
person you come in and all they really want is, I heard you had Nightingale ice cream sandwiches. How do I find those? So it's a big dynamic of dealing with people here.
And are you open year round? I was listening to my friend Rachel Shank's talk this morning. You know, at one point they were only processing chickens for like 6 months of the year, but she also said you need to keep them you need to stay top of mind to your customers all year long. So they found some partners and a variety of things. So are you farming all 4 seasons and you have fresh vegetables all 4 seasons? And how does that work?
We definitely farm seasonally, and we
Mm-hmm.
do have a winter season here. We do a lot of things in our hoop houses, and
Okay.
that has allowed us to extend our growing season. So, we have the leafy greens and the radishes and the root vegetables, the storage crops, all of that sort of stuff. And we're open pretty much year round. We take a break over the holiday for a week or two, but it is very important, as your friend said to you, your colleague, you have to stay top of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And our regular customers that shop here every week are so thankful that we are here during those winter months, because so many of the things that we grow you don't really find in a regular supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
And the flavor is definitely different. And if they have to go get it somewhere else, they come back and they're like, oh my God, I was forced. You were closed for 2 weeks over Christmas. I was forced to go and get something, and I never want to have to do that again. Please don't make me. So,
Well,
yeah,
that you could say
year
the same
round.
thing about the strawberries. You know, I'm like, you're buying strawberries now that have really no flavor to them
Yes.
when you're
I
buying
don't
them
eat
at,
those.
yeah, yeah.
I take those off the plate if somebody serves me strawberries. Period. I don't eat any other strawberries. I'm so spoiled. It's like, well, I'll save that calorie. I'll save that, that pesticide ingestion right there.
Hmm.
I'll save that and just put that to the side. So,
Um, well, good to know on that. That's, I mean, and we should all be thinking about that. I mean, and not everybody can eat 12 months out of the year in whatever part of the country they are, depending on the because of the weather. So you are dependent on that. But making do, or and I remember one farmer in Maryland who was working with a chef. I think it was Woodbury Restaurant. I think that's the name of it. But they were canning the farmer was canning vegetables for the or no the farmer was or the restaurant chef was buying the secondhand vegetables from the farm and canning them and putting the cans on the wall as the decor of the restaurant so that they could serve the fresh vegetables all year long. So I
and
love
we
that
do that with our
partnership.
tomatoes.
You do? Okay.
I have 300 jars of tomatoes, and they're all over that kitchen that we teach our cooking classes in. That's the best place to
Yeah,
store them. I can grab them off the shelf when I'm making tomato soup or our vegetable soup. So we put that into action.
that's
I get
awesome.
so tired of seeing tomatoes. Oh my Lord. I do love them. I still eat
Yeah.
them just about every meal, but
And are
they get to
they
be a bit much.
all varieties of tomatoes?
Mostly the slicing tomatoes, but we do
Okay.
an heirloom tomato passata
Okay.
and have that as our base for a lot of things that we do, and it's delicious. But after you have made a dish with sliced tomatoes,
Hmm.
and then you've made gazpacho with the seconds tomatoes, And now you're facing, 300 pounds of tomatoes to cull and can. You get a little tired of tomatoes.
Well, okay, so you're the chief farm operator, but you're also the head chef then. Am I
Yeah.
assuming that right?
Hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
So you're making all of that, all of those dishes that you're selling in the market as well.
Yes. For many years, we have had farm chef,
Mhm.
and they've been great. We recently lost our last farm chef to uh, a very terrible disease called cancer.
Oh,
And he
I'm
was very
sorry.
young, and we miss him terribly. And after that, I haven't found anyone else that could fill his shoes. So it took a her to fill
Mhm.
his shoes, and that's me.
I'm sorry for your loss. That's horrible. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
tough because he was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So, okay, I wanna go back to the word heirloom that you mentioned too. Do you do a lot of heirloom seeding and things like that? And what do you decide to grow, and how does that heritage and regional flavor factor into this decisions?
Heirloom was built for flavor.
Okay.
And so just to go back, and you may have listeners that know more about this than I could ever dream of, but I'll give you my take on what heirloom is. Heirloom needs to have been the same plant variety for 100 years,
Oh,
meaning
wow.
that it has not changed in its origin. Cherokee purple tomato that you got 100 years ago is going to look, taste, and feel like when you pick it up, it's going to feel the same way as they did 100 years ago. That's how I think of an heirloom,
Okay.
unchanged variety. The heirlooms that were grown in particular places have a flavor profile that helped create a lot of dishes that were regional specialties to begin with. Those cooks knew those vegetables, they knew how to use them,
Mhm.
and that's why when you find those old recipes, you're already a step ahead. So I digress to saying I love to grow the heirloom things because it gives me the taste of the past. So when I'm recreating true Southern cuisine, which is my favorite thing to recreate these days here on the farm, I
Mhm.
know that I'm getting as close to the original. It's going to taste like your grandma made because it's the same thing she went out to her garden and grew, and it brings you that food memory when you bite into it. Oh, I haven't had
Okay.
anything that tastes like this, and since I was a little kid at 4 years old, and we went to visit my
Mhm.
grandmother out on her farm in wherever, Tennessee. So I strive for that. Now we go to what do we grow that captures that. So again, let's talk tomatoes. Of course, we do lots of Tennessee
Mhm.
native tomatoes, but we also do sorghum, and we do heirloom corn. And
Mhm.
so we grow a corn that's called Bloody Butcher, which is like the predecessor to Jimmy Red. You hear a lot about Jimmy Red on menus these days, but Bloody
Mhm.
Butcher was kind of the granddaddy of that. And I think it's a little more um, flavorful corn. So we grow that one, and we grow blue corn, and we grow Wapsie Valley speckled corn, and all of that sort of stuff. We grow heirloom peanuts. So our Tennessee Red Mammoth peanut came from Dr. David Shields, who helped create the Arc of Taste and is a major food historian and scholar.
Mhm.
So David Shields brought us those 10 seeds to put in production. These are the last 10 seeds we know about. Good luck. That was a little pressure. So we do heirloom peanuts now, and some years are good ones, and we have peanuts to sell, and others are like, well, we have to save it all for seed because it wasn't a great growing year. And we try to hedge our bets with making sure we protect that seed bank going forward. And my family had a lot of fun things that we grew, so different kind of hot peppers and unique things. So I brought some of those seeds from North Carolina, and they're pretty happy over here. So we have some of those too.
So do you have your own seed bank?
We do keep our own seed bank. We do
Mhm.
buy some seeds every year,
Mhm.
but we can't let some of those amazing flavor profiles and history just leave us. We have to keep them
Right.
going.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if we're putting those things in our CSA box, our local farm box that people
Mhm.
pick up each week, we'll tell people that these are heirloom seeds and you can save them and they're going to hold true. So when they plant their gardens, a lot of our customers are, gardeners in their own right,
Mhm.
please keep these seeds going. Because if I ever have total crop failure, I'm going to call you back and I'm going to say, do you have some of those seeds? Can I get a few back from you? And so it helps build a great relationship. The customers feel like they're a part of your family, the Green
Mhm.
Door story as well.
That's amazing. And because I know that when I was in Atlanta and a member of Slow Food down in Atlanta, we talked about, the different seed banks and the arc of taste and making sure that you're keeping those flavors and those vegetables and fruits alive in doing that. And some are like housed in libraries, right?
Yes, they are. And we do a little bit of a seed exchange with the
Mhm.
Nashville Library
Okay.
upon request. And I think they do a great job of getting those seeds out into the world. And we love it when our customers will bring us seeds and they tell us their family story. And I've got a particular variety of okra. I'll never know the real name of it, but it's this huge mammoth okra. They get like
Wow.
really big, but they're still tender. And
Wow,
so,
that's amazing.
I call it
Yeah.
Miss Molly's
Uh-huh.
because he was like, My grandma Molly grew this in her garden. And so we always grow a little bit of Miss Molly every year. And I have certain customers that they will not buy any other okra. They'll come in and get the Miss Molly. They will wait for it. So it's
Wow.
fun.
And I mean, we eat canned okra in our house, or pickled okra, I should
Pickled
say.
it. Yeah.
Pickled okra. We eat a lot of that in our house. It's delicious, but they're definitely not that big. They're the smaller ones.
And the little smaller ones make tender for just snacking on. The
Right.
Miss Molly is great for like putting into soups and stews or frying because it's so big. It's almost
Hmm.
like having a fried green tomato as a piece of okra. It's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, and you were talking about tomatoes and just the taste of them. I'm like, a tomato sandwich is like the best, right? It
Real
used to
tomato
be,
sandwich.
huh?
A real tomato
A
sandwich.
real tomato sandwich, and I'm gonna say on Wonder Bread with Miracle Whip, which you shouldn't eat both of those, either one of those, but maybe some Duke's
On
mayonnaise.
homemade sourdough with homemade
Right.
aioli, right?
Okay, there you go.
We
That
all have
sounds
time to do that.
exactly right. Yes, yes. Okay, so we've talked about a lot about the CSAs and things, but you supply a lot of restaurants and the Nashville public schools. So, and you operate event venues on the property. How do you think about the different food systems that you're serving, and what does that mix of customers teach you about food access? I mean, you're feeding school kids, which I also want to get to the fact that you bring all these school kids to the farm as well, but you're doing restaurants and event venues and school kids. How does that all? I mean, that's gonna make you feel so good.
It does. I will say that in the past few years since COVID,
Hmm.
getting local produce into schools is almost non-existent.
Really?
There are way too many hurdles for doing this with the Food Safety Modernization Act, with getting food transported to schools. And then also think about it, in Tennessee, our growing season for the things that schools want to buy,
Hmm. Is when they're
it
not in
doesn't match
school.
up. It's when they're not in school. So it's very difficult. And I'm primarily a vegetable farmer.
Okay.
So if they're looking for apples and a lot of fruit, I'm not going to be your girl. If you're
Mhm.
looking for your kale and your lettuce and your things like that, I'm your girl. That being said, they all want to buy my strawberries.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a catch 22.
Mhm.
But access to institutions, and whether it's school kids or hospitals or anything else, is extremely difficult. And that is going to be uh, not only in the state of Tennessee, but a nationwide hurdle that is going to take very broad shoulders to have that needle move in any way. And we don't have enough time to talk policy and digress into that. So we'll move along to say, I wish it was easier to get good food in the institutions for the people that really need it, are vulnerable, whether they're the younger kids or our elderly population that are hospitalized or whatever else, to get them healthy food. I think that's a huge thing that we all need to work on, not just farmers and not just
Yeah.
politicians and legislators. So I digress to saying, when the kids come out to the farm, it's awesome because the parents come back and they say, my kid asked me to make kale chips. I have
Wow.
no idea how to make kale chips. Help. Or my kid ate sorrel, French sorrel.
Mhm.
I don't even know what it is. Can I grow some? Because that's all they keep talking about they want. So to
Wow.
me, that's when I've succeeded, is I
Mhm.
have changed somebody that, only wanted Pringles and now they want kale chips. And that
Mm-hmm.
makes me really
Yeah.
happy.
Which brings me to a memory I had. I spoke at a school nutrition conference a couple of years ago, and the first aisle I was going down, and I have food allergies, so I was asking questions, and the only vendor who was still they are selling food, the only vendor there that could tell me the ingredients of their food was the Idaho Potato Company. None of they could all tell you if it met the number 145 or whatever that the school system needed to meet, but they could not tell me the ingredients in their food. And that just kind of goes back to, like, I want you to bring more kids out to the farm so they know what they're eating, and they're eating it at home. Yeah.
I have 60 kids coming to learn about compost tomorrow. So there
Oh,
you go.
awesome.
It'll be very fun. And today is National Ag Day. Did you know that?
I did not. Yay.
So yes, the
Yeah.
24th of March is National Ag Day, and it is Women in Farming Month. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the perfect time to
Yep.
be talking about all these things.
Exactly. So how are you all celebrating National Ag Day
We're
besides
working.
talking to me? You're working, you're in the agriculture.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So, there's a great quote that Dwight Eisenhower said, and he said, um, farming looks pretty easy when you plant with a pencil and
Mhm.
you're 1,000 miles away from a cornfield. So we can talk about ag all day long, but until
Mhm.
you're actually in it and doing it and seeing it on
Mhm.
a, daily basis, and you're watching spring literally unfold in front of you, and you're seeing things come alive, and you're seeing what made it, what didn't make it, how do we work through all of that, what are we going to put in the box this week, how are we going to think about recipes to tell our consumers to use if they've never wrangled a butternut squash before. How do we do all those things? So that's how we celebrate Ag Day, is by putting ag into action.
That's awesome. And like, because in CSAs in Atlanta, there's and the ones that I'm used to, and I'm in North Carolina now, and I don't really know anybody that does them here, but there's the box that's the surprise box. And then there's more Farms and Friends, which you were able to go on and pick and choose what you wanted in your box. But a lot of times it's like those kids that are like their mom, like, what's sorrel? I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. So I love the fact
Mhm.
that you're educating them on how to use the food that you're growing.
Yes, our CSA is a little bit different. We call it a
Mhm.
local farm box,
Okay.
because we know we can't grow everything here and do it well. We work with other farm partners,
Mhm.
local folks to bring in. So it's a very well-rounded box. So CSA started in the 1970s as a way to stake the farmer early in the season and get a share of the produce. So you give them X amount of dollars early in the season, and you come every week for a set number of weeks and get your box of whatever the farmer has to offer you. And through the 1970s up until about 15 years ago, that was a really great model for
Mhm.
people that lived in the more rural kind of communities, but it does not work for me as a modern consumer. And I
Mhm.
kept thinking, how can I make my produce more accessible to the modern consumer? So we came up with this buy it each week instead of a long time subscription.
Okay.
And so that way you can choose if you happen to be traveling, or if there's things in the box you don't want, you're not doing food waste. I'm not going to eat that. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't want that. Just don't get a box that week. That's the
Mhm.
answer to that, right?
Mhm.
And then we also try to give the knowledge, tell people how to use it. I'm always around on CSA Day. People come say, how do I use this? What do I do with this? How do I store this properly? All those things that matter into that. And when we put out our farm box list, we tell you you're going to get these items in your box. We don't tell you the exact quantity, but we'll
Mhm.
tell you you're going to get kale or collards, and you're going to get this, and you're going to get that. And you can menu plan around that when the list comes out on
Nice.
Wednesday. And then you can also determine one thing you're missing. Maybe it's going to be here at Green Door Gourmet. Maybe you need to special order it somewhere else if you want to make a really interesting, recipe from Egypt, then you might need to find something somewhere else to add to it, but you really
Right.
want to make this that you saw online somewhere.
I love that because and I love the fact of the thought process around the food waste, because there's so many times that you get that surprise box and like, oh, I don't like that eggplant or whatever it is, and who do you go give it to, right? It usually ends up in the garbage can.
And that's not what we want. We want you to
No.
enjoy everything in your box
Mm-hmm.
and try everything in your box. And if you don't like something, it may be because you've never known how to cook it.
Right.
You've cooked it
Mm-hmm.
incorrectly so many times, you know you don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I've told you try it like this, you're like, I did that and I actually liked it. It was
Mm.
amazing. So
Yeah, it's like roasting vegetables with some balsamic or some olive oil with salt and pepper versus steaming them, like Brussels sprouts.
mush,
Like, yeah,
mush,
yeah, yeah.
stinky.
I
Mhm.
love roasted Brussels sprouts, but steaming them till they get really mushy is not my thing.
Yes. But when we do our CSA, one of the most fun things, this kind of goes back just a little bit to what you were talking about, is in the tomato season, of course, we always do a great job with cherry tomatoes, and we have oodles of them of all different kinds. And we display them out on a big table so you can come and pick out the perfect pint of cherry tomatoes that you want. And my favorite thing is when the kids open the door and they run into the CSA area and they go, tomato candy, because a lot of kids won't try tomatoes, but if you
Mm-hmm.
tell them it's candy because they're sweet,
Mm-hmm.
they want the tomato candy. So it's
Mm-hmm.
all in the mindset that you have when you're trying to teach people about vegetables. It's tomato candy, Mom. I want more of those.
Yeah. No, I love that. And cherry tomatoes are so easy to be that candy, you know.
Hmm.
And I love having just a bowl of them just sitting on the kitchen counter and just walking by and being able to eat them all day long, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're beautiful to look at too. So you
Yeah,
get decor and delicious.
exactly. Okay, so you do corporate events, retreats, farm dinners. You had a big production on the farm this weekend. What does that experience teach you about hospitality professionals thinking about food? Like, I'm planning an event in Nashville in May, and I probably have 45 food functions over the course of 5 days. Unfortunately, we're not doing any of our events at your farm. But
Slacker.
I know, like, we're just staying in one building, unfortunately. Um, how do we get hospitalities to think about food differently, and what do we get wrong? I mean, there's so many chefs that are like, this is what I make, this is what you got. And then there's like those chefs that you have that are like, give me my second, sell your seconds, buy your seconds. How does that need to change as well, besides the policy up in DC?
Well, a lot of it is just what chefs are comfortable in doing and
Hmm.
what their constraints are. So, I mean, you have
Okay.
to kind of go back to that initial part of the conversation we have. What is you'll need to be? What is the conference paying for you to be there? You've planned, a price for this. You planned a price for that. All of those things. So, I think that's really important to understand what you're asking that chef to do first.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
then that chef has to be able to say, look, I've got some leeway to be creative. These are people that I know do a great job doing this. And so let me reach out to them and see if they can, work with me on my special thing that I've said is going to be a seasonal
Right.
launch from Nashville. So I think that's the biggest intersection that has to happen. Um, some chefs don't have the capacity. They only learned how to do what comes in the box from a big food company, and this
Hmm.
is what we make, and this is how we do it. And others have this amazing creative gene, and they're like, well, I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got that, and I can make this. And in addition to talking about the regular food professionals, I would say the chef that you trust when he or she goes home and they open the refrigerator and they go, what's in here? What can I make for dinner? That attitude is, huge in saying, okay, farmers, well, what do you got? Here's my
Hmm.
refrigerator. What can you bring me that I can make something really great out of? That's your
Hmm.
creative energy that
Yeah.
has to go into that. And sometimes it's constrained by budget and corporate, and they can't do anything about those two things.
Well, and then also staffing wise too, because I remember a chef that I chatted with, actually two different chefs, and they're like, he's like, I said, what do you think about this restaurant down the street or whatever? He's like, I don't ever get out. I go to this building and then I go to my house. I don't have time to go out and do anything else and experience. And that's a shame, in my opinion. Like, why aren't you experiencing your own town and also getting new ideas?
Because we work too much. I'm the same
Mhm.
way. We have one spot we go. We call it Sunday Supper.
Mm-hmm.
They're a restaurant that supports us. They buy a lot of produce from us. And
Mm-hmm.
so I know I can go in and I can order something on the menu that either I grew or
Mm-hmm.
maybe I want to do something because I'm tired of eating that kale. I will get something else, but I know that it was sourced well and handled well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's 1 hour off the farm, the
Mm-hmm.
escape for one
Right.
hour that I don't have to make the food, think about the food. I order pretty much one of two things when I go in there, and it
Right.
is easy, and it's 5 minutes from here. So
Okay.
I don't have time to go to so many places across town. I wish I did. I wish I could visit every single person, the 50 restaurants and caterers that buy our stuff. I would love to experience all their food, but there's just not enough time to do that. But
Right.
it's really fun when I open up. There's it's not really distributor, but I'll call it a distributor. That's the easiest way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called Nashville Grown. And they do a great job of curating all the product from Nashville farms into one online platform that the chefs can order.
Oh,
So
cool.
back to your question, if they're not using Nashville Grown because they think they can't access local stuff, well, that solves their problem of being able to access and get it delivered to them. They don't have to
Mm-hmm.
run to every farm to get it. So when I see the Nashville Grown pallet or tower, as we call it, that has all the shelves that they're going to come pick up, and I see the best names in Nashville, all the people that are, getting the Michelin hype and all the chefs that are winning the James Beard Awards and everything else, I see their name on my produce bags going out.
Awesome.
It just,
Yeah.
it makes me so happy because I know that in the right hands, what I'm growing is shaping the taste of that dish to help them get the accolade.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be extremely aware that once we get to consistently hot temperatures, kale has to go off the menu.
Mm-hmm.
We do not sell kale. It's going to be too bitter and it's going to
Okay.
change the flavor profile. And it's my job as the farmer to know when that is and to take it off the list.
That's amazing. And do you think you have that thought process also because you're a chef?
Yes.
Okay. Do not
Most
all
farmers,
farmers don't
no.
think that?
No. And you go to most farmers markets, they either have a volunteer there
Mhm.
or the farmer is not necessarily a cook. They're a great farmer. And so the experience that I've had being behind the scenes in a kitchen, as well as, behind the scenes on the farm, commingling that information
Mhm.
is really, really critical. Sometimes I'll go down and the field guys have harvested something and they tell me it's going to go to a restaurant. I'm like, well, the chef's not going to be able to use it that way. You needed to have left a little bit more stem, or I know you think they're looking for this part because that's the part you're used to using, but they are
Right.
actually buying it for the other part too. So, we got to reharvest and give me what you harvested for them, and I'll turn it into a soup or some grab and go for up here. But the chef's going to want it more like that.
That's interesting. Okay, so on that note, so kale stalks, because we're taught to take the kale leaves off the stalk.
Mhm.
What do you do with those stalks?
Well, kale is a little bit more difficult. If you would have said Swiss chard, which is in that
Okay.
same brassica
Mhm.
family, the Swiss chard is great pickled. You can
Okay.
pickle those stems into little crunchy pieces, and they're
Mhm.
great on a
And they're
charcuterie board.
beautiful colors.
And they're a beautiful color. And if
Mhm.
you do a quick pickle and you don't leave them in the brine too long, then they don't lose their color and kind of turn gray or greenish gray. So that's one thing to do. Um, Parts of the kale stalk, if you were making a traditional mess of greens in the South, you would leave a little bit more of the stalk in there because you're going
Mhm.
to cook that pot of greens all day long and it cooks down and it gives you that little
Mhm.
bit of texture that you want in the green. So, yes, we're taught to take all that off because you're going to make a salad or something else. But you don't always have to take all the stalk depending on the dish that you're making. And the third thing is if you take all the leaves off the stalks, you've got the stalks to give to the chickens. The chickens give you eggs and then you can make omelets.
Perfect. That's a good meal right there. Okay, a couple of quick questions for you. Because it's Women's History Month, it's Ag Day as HERstory Month, I should correct myself. And then Ag Day. What's the conversation happening? Um, you've spoken at USDA at the Women in Agriculture gathering in DC. Um, is there a level of conversation happening at that level about women farmers and food systems? And what do you wish more people in hospitality as well as just in general understood about that? Or
I
is that
don't
getting
think,
too much into that policy
oh,
conversation?
that's a lot of politics, which I do try to steer away from. Not that I
Mhm,
don't have my toe in the water of it, but um, it's never enough. We never feel like in an industry that we're getting all the attention we need. So my
mhm,
answer would be that same feeling, it's never enough. We need more. But I do think that there are programs for young farmers,
mhm,
whether they're male or female or non-gender specific, whatever it is. I do think that there are programs that they're trying to encourage more young people in farming, and I like those programs. I hope that the young people that are interested in farming can take advantage of those programs, but I also strongly recommend that they go and work a job, not just volunteer, but they go and work a job on a farm to make sure this is what you want to do. And I think a lot of people have this very pastoral view of farming. I'm frolicking with the butterflies, but they're not thinking about I'm working in the squash bugs. That's not
mhm,
what people think of when they think of farming. They don't always have themselves prepared for the harsh reality of dealing with Mother Nature, of the really high highs and the really low lows. And it's a roller coaster, and
mhm,
resilience is really important. And I think that if you go to work on a farm, getting a paycheck from a farmer, but you're experiencing everything that you have to go through, you'll learn that resilience, and then you'll determine, yes, I want to take out a $500,000 loan to buy the tractor, to buy the land, to buy the seed, to hire people to
mhm,
help me, whatever it might be. It's a big step. And so that gives you a good stepping stone to get to the point of wanting to do that. And I would especially encourage women to do that, because it's harder for us to get that loan. And if we get it,
mhm,
we don't want to fail.
mhm. That's some very sound advice. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. One Southern heirloom crop you wish every chef knew how to use.
Sorghum.
Why is that?
Sorghum syrup is delicious. I
Mhm,
hate it when people call it molasses. It's not. If you know how to use it, you can capture the real beautiful tropical flavor notes that are in it, not just making it some caramelized dark sugar.
okay. And do you also do sorghum flour from the sorghum you grow?
No.
No.
That's a different seed pod head. It's a little
Okay.
bit bigger, and we only grind corn in our stone mill, so that way we can keep it no cross contamination. So I don't have another mill to grind it. So
All right. Love that. I love the word cross contamination. Um, make sure
we
that
think
we're
about all those things.
right. Yes. What's the best thing to come out of your farm store that surprises first time visitors?
Okra.
The
Yeah,
Molly
I mean,
okra.
I think that's one of the heirloom crops, or maybe our cornmeal, because it's so many different beautiful colors,
Hmm.
and they never knew corn could come in different colors.
There's blue corn chips, but okay.
They think they're not corn. They think
Right.
they're something else.
Or there's
Yes,
purple dye or something in it. Yeah.
dye in them. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. The biggest thing a planner gets wrong when they say they want farm to table.
They think just because it's a vegetable, it's farm to table.
Okay. Because it needs to be the full thing. It needs to come directly from you to be
It
farm to
needs to
table.
be. You're talking about growing and eating seasonally.
Hmm.
What is locally grown. I think that's what they think they're trying to say, but instead they're saying asparagus in December.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Thank you. Okay. Because you're a singer and you moved to Nashville to be a singer, if your farm had a signature song, what would it be?
There's a great song that was written by Danny Lowry and Wendy Wallman, and it's been recorded by Kathy Mattea and Dan Seals, but my favorite version is Newgrass Revival, and it's a song called You Plant Your Fields.
Okay. I have to
and you
go
should
look
look
that
it
one
up.
up.
You
I
just
will.
look up the lyrics
Okay.
or, YouTube Newgrass Revival singing it, and you'll understand why that song means something.
Okay. I will do that. Okay. Um, you've been a chef. You teach kids about food. You've been a farmer. How do you want to be remembered?
Hospitable. I know that may sound a little old-fashioned, and people might not understand what that word really means, being gracious to strangers as well as people and creating an environment of warmth and giving without necessarily needing a reward or return. So would like to think of being fair and hospitable.
I like that. Thank you. All right. And the final question. Finish this sentence. Every meal should.
Matter.
They should. Should.
Whether it's because you're enjoying it with someone you care about, or it's a business function and you're trying to formulate something that's going to change your life, or you're eating for nutrition to nourish your body, or it brings back a food memory. Whatever reason, it should matter.
Thank you. I love that.
Sure.
Okay, so I just posted up here on the screen your Instagram and your website. How else best are those the two best ways to get in touch with you?
Yes, because I am not the technology girl. I'll be the first person to tell you that. I'm absolutely floored that I did not disrupt the technology during this podcast. It is a miracle on Ag Day that did not happen. So if you go through either of those two channels, I have someone wonderful who will get information to me, and then I can get back to you from there. Or the other way is the old-fashioned way. Just come see me. I'm usually always here on the farm.
Okay. Well, I'm coming in April 1st through 4th, and I'm coming May. It's sometime in the middle of the May. So I'm going to make sure that I do find a time to come see you.
Please do. We'd
I
love to
will.
have you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm so excited to bring Sylvia to attention to Sylvia to you through Green Door Gourmet. Check her out on Instagram and on the website. And until next, actually, 2 more episodes this week, 1 tomorrow and 1 Thursday, introducing you to 3 more female farmers for the year of the female farmer. So until then, stay safe. Yes, exactly. You go. Thank you, Sylvia, for growing our food and feeding us.
My pleasure. Bye now.
Bye now, everybody. Have a good day and stay safe and just eat well.